Hi, I'm Paige Hayhurst, the Executive Director of the Virginia Living Museum, and this is a special anniversary edition of the Forces of Nature blog. We have two very special guests, Wason, Sherwood Holt, to talk about the founding of the museum. So let's set the stage a little bit. 1966 in Newport News, what was that like?
Well, I'm trying to remember. I'll bet you Harry's been doing the same thing. All the business was downtown. There were fields between North End, Newport News, and Hilton Village, and then more fields, and then you got into Warwick City. My father said it's the only city in the country that has more cows than people. And that was probably true. In other words, there was tons of empty, undeveloped land and farmland. That, I think, is the major difference.
We started this, I guess, with my dad educating me into nature when I was a young boy. And I kept it what he had, and he always took me up to my attic with my brother.
And we have some of that, still the butterfly collections I remember. And birds' eggs, and we still have those in the collections.
I give the credit to my father to instill in me the appreciation of nature. I always kept that with me. And when I went to college here at William Mary, and then when I went in business, I was heading for Texas. As far as I ever got was Charlotte, North Carolina. And there I saw the Charlotte Nature Museum. I was very impressed with it. So I said to myself, well, one day at a time, I would like to try to create one. So time came, and I happened to be president of Warwick Rotary, that let's do a project.
Tell me about Rotary. So who else was on that Rotary Club? Because we call them, with the Junior League of Hampton Roads, we call them the two founding organizations.
Bobby Lawson, who helped us with a hammer, built the Planetarium, if you recall that.
I do recall that.
Yeah, Kennedy Forbes, it was Monk Abbott was before me. He was, I think, one of the founding fathers. And we got the Rotary interested, and they said yes. And everybody said, well, we've got to have the Junior League to make this thing to go. So some group, I was a young fellow, didn't really know the ladies. But
we were married to your members, so it worked out well.
That we had to have them. So they were interested and said together, we'd like to do this. I looked around and I saw this piece of property here, and I said, oh my, wouldn't that be a great spot? Well, back in those days, if you wanted to get anything done in Newport News, you went to see Joe Biggins, was it?
The legendary Joe Biggins.
Biggins. He was a tough one.
He was a city manager.
So if you wanted to get anything done, I learned real quick, you had to go down to U.S. Restaurant on Washington Avenue.
I remember the U.S.
Remember that, and talk to him and see if you could convince him of what you wanted. Well, I saw this piece of property here, and I told him that I would think this would be this would be a great place for a nature center. Told him about the Junior League and the Rotary, and he looked at me and he said, son, you'll never get that piece of property. That is the most valuable piece of property in the city of Newport News. I said, thank you very much. I paid for the lunch and left. I went back to Monk Abbott, Don Hyatt, Jerry Brittingham, which was in Rotary. They went down, and I think I went with you, I can't recall, to the city council, and through, I guess, their influence, and not mine, we got this land for $1 a year.
Well, didn't you tell me that a letter from Mrs. Huntington made a big difference?
Well, John Rippick Forbes and I talked to Anna Huntington, who was the sculptress, and she happened to be on the board of the Junior Nature Museum in New York. But that letter from Anna Huntington pretty well put the nail in the coffin that this was going to go. And so we created a steering committee, and we started to raise money, and I think Dave Blaylock was chairman. What was it, $175,000?
Yeah. So to raise our portion of it, or a portion of it, the Junior League put on a Follies. Well, in those days, it was before YouTube, right? It was sort of a do-it-yourself.
And aren't you glad?
Oh, heavens, yes. And all of us were trained by this person from New York City, you know, to put on the Follies. Our Follies was a marsh hare affair, and it was a
great.
sellout.
It was a sellout.
And we made money.
Super.
And we used to have 2 newspapers then, and the evening newspaper was the Times Herald, and it had this marvelous headline, a whole big headline, and it says, Junior League fundraiser a success. Well, it was sort of fun maybe after you'd done it.
Right.
But it's meant to say fundraiser. But we did raise the money, which was, you know, almost a miracle.
Monk Abbott was a great help. He was the one that really pushed us, I remember, for the planetarium, in that we could probably sell it better to the community.
And because
Interesting.
that was the cutting edge science that was happening at the time.
Boy, we were all excited, and we figured, you know, that's it, you know. And some of the Rotary people went out there and banged nails, but Bobby Lawson knew what he was doing. That was the beginning of how we got started, and this has to be a community project from there on.
When we began, we didn't have the building to start with. As Harry says, Bobby Lawson and builders and Rotary Club and all those folks were, you know, busy building a building. Harry, Walter Wellman was the architect. He designed it.
Great.
And all working together.
And that's the drawing that I have.
And
that came
Right
from
on the
you.
wall.
Yeah, and so we hired Brad Hawkins as our first director, and there wasn't a building. So he gave classes over here at the Deer Park School, and he had a whole semester of classes on nature at the Deer Park School. That was our first cooperation with them. And then, you know, and so then we had a building. And what can I say?
And he came.
That was the first, and it's amazing what's happened.
So what were the exhibits? First exhibits.
Well, they were
Natural
animals.
history. And you were taking care of the animals.
We were feeding rats to the snakes. I mean, you know, it was, and we also had an aquarium. And it was right here where this building is. And it was always leaking and doing terrible stuff, and nobody knew anything much about the aquarium. But what I remember, I'm executive director, and they have to have parts to repair it, and nobody could afford parts. So the young man, Bill somebody, who was in charge of that sort of thing, came with me to my barn, and here was my stepmother's washing machine. He said, "You think she'll give us the washing machine?" And I said, "Well, of course she will." So we brought the washing machine and repaired the aquarium with the parts from the washing machine. I mean, that's what we were like in those days. We were pretty, they were infant steps, but to keep going.
I never knew that story. Another one on the committee that was interested with Admiral Dufek. He'd gone to the Antarctic and brought back his penguin.
The penguin.
We still have the penguin.
Still got the penguin?
Yes.
Well, I went
sorry,
after that
it's not
penguin.
funny.
He says, "No way you're going to have that penguin." I kept coming back, and finally he said, I'll tell you what, I'll lend it to you, because I know once he lent it to me.
You had it, yeah.
Well, I had a little sports car with a roof on it, and I put that penguin, his head came up above it. And there was a man working on a telephone at the high level. Really, this is a true story. And he looked down at that penguin, and he looked at this little Mercedes, and I thought he was going to fall out of that thing.
I've never seen
that's
that
how it-
before.
That was so funny. But if it had been just Harry and me and Mary Lou running the thing, we wouldn't be here now. It's taken all of these wonderful people who have been grabbed by the whole idea of it. You know,
The thing that's most important that you were talking about was the education. That's the most
education.
important.
Absolutely, and
That's
the
the key.
volunteers. It's really important to teach young people about the environment because it's disappearing. There just aren't very many places where we can see nature as nature was or was meant to be. You know, that was very thoughtful of us because then there was plenty of nature in Newport News. It was more nature than it was anything else.
And now it's a little oasis. Well, what dreams for the next 50 do you have? What are your...
To stay alive and keep going.
We're going to make that happen.
And I know we're going to make that happen. It's just difficult these days with museums not being funded and governments not having money and not funding museums. It's hard, I know. But I'd love to see us continue on the same track, you know, of growth, improving, just like we are now.
We may have been the glue that started it, but this community has made it what you see it today.